Hey friends, it's Spence. Today I'll be doing my July reading wrap-up. So I read a total of 8 books for the month of July, of which I will talk about only 7. And the first book that I read is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a very popular book on Book Talk. It's a retelling of the Greek tale about Achilles and Patroclus, like their relationship. And since this is number 1, a really popular book, and number 2, a retelling, and basically all you need to know is that it's about the budding romance, or I guess the romance, between Achilles and Patroclus. I don't think I need to give any more details further than that, but honestly I would say that this book is definitely worth the hype. I loved it so much. Madeline Miller's writing is impeccable. It's absolutely stunning and beautiful, and I loved how she portrayed the character's emotions. You really go through it. You really go through the entire range of emotions, whether it's joy, it's pain, heartbreak. And I also loved how just absolutely well realized the world building is. I know that this is a retelling and a lot of readers are already familiar with kind of the setting of this story, but even still, she really takes the time to really immerse you in the environment. Just everything, like the magic and the politics, are so well described. It's not like an all-time favorite, but it's definitely a favorite of mine, so I rated this 4 stars. The next book that I read is a sequel to The Strangers by Margaret Peterson Haddix, and this one is called The Deceivers. It's the second book in the Greystone Secrets trilogy. This is a middle-grade mystery sort of thriller that's set in sort of like a multiverse setting. I'm not going to give away anything beyond that because the entire premise of this second book is reliant on the first book. But let's just say I really enjoyed the first book, but this one was a huge step down. I did not really enjoy it that much. I feel like nothing was really accomplished or the plot didn't further at all. We were just kind of like running around in circles for the entirety of the book. So I rated this one 2 stars. So the next book that I read is actually the subscribers pick of the month. So every month on the first day, or I guess the first week, I asked the subscribers, which book should I prioritize for the month? Actually, it was a tie between This Winter by Alice Oseman and I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. And I picked This Winter by Alice Oseman because it got the higher number of votes first. So This Winter by Alice Oseman is a novella. It's set right after the events of Heartstopper. But here we follow the Spring siblings. That's Tori, Charlie, and Oliver. This is marked as a novella, but honestly it feels like more like a short story split in 3 parts. It's super short, you can read it in an hour, and I actually like this one. There's definitely some heavy themes that are being tackled here, particularly eating disorders. But I really like this one. There's not much to say since it's very short. This is the first time I'm reading Alice Oseman's prose instead of just the graphic novel. And I really like her writing so far. It's a very short sample, but I liked it and I liked the story, so I'm excited to see the rest of her written works. For this month, I also read another Book Talk favorite, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Now, I buddy read this with a bunch of friends, expecting to sort of hate it. I actually did not initially consent to being a part of this buddy read, but eventually I said, you know what, I haven't read any Colleen Hoover and she's really popular, so why not give it a go? And I was pleasantly surprised that I actually liked this book. In this book we follow Lily Bloom and kind of her romance with this new guy that she meets that turns out to be super abusive, and also the romance that kind of haunts her from her past. Make no mistake though, it is not a romance book, it is more an exploration on domestic abuse. So that's a very heavy theme that you need to know before getting into this book if you are triggered by that. But yeah, I actually really liked this book. For the most part, I thought the main character is super cringe and super white. However, after reading the author's note, it's very clear that the nature of this story is very personal to Colleen Hoover, since the main inspiration for this book is her mother and her relationship with her father. But after knowing that and seeing the attempt that Colleen Hoover makes to try to apply that to the bigger picture of domestic abuse in general, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I felt that there was some small level of victim blaming, and there's a lot of things that are just downright unrealistic, particularly with how everything wrapped up so nicely for the main character, which is clearly not the case for domestic abuse victims. So keeping in mind that this book is more of a personal thing for Colleen Hoover, I'd rate this 4 stars, but if applied to a larger context or as a nuanced commentary on domestic abuse, I'd put this around 2 stars. The next book that I read is another novella, which is an actual, novella-length novella. That is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone. This is another popular book, and it's a sci-fi, and I would also classify this under romance, because I feel like this is a romantic sci-fi or sci-fi romance. The story of 2 people, Blue and Red, who are part of different warring factions who are kind of traveling through time and the multiverse and things like that. They have different goals and they're going against each other, but at different, I guess, threads or points in time or space, they leave each other letters. And these letters, initially, they're kind of like going against each other, and eventually it turns into a romance. I absolutely love this book, but the thing is, I feel like I'm too stupid for this book because the prose is absolutely purple. And I don't just mean beautiful prose, it's purple prose. It's over the top, it uses a lot of complicated words. I don't use that as a negative though, because I feel like this was the heart of the book. Because through the complex ways in which the characters express themselves, it just translated so well into their yearning and their love for each other, and I just absolutely melted reading their letters to each other. Super captivating read. Honest to goodness, I feel like I don't even know half of what happened in this book because of just how complicated everything was expressed, and because I didn't bother to, check a dictionary to check what this word means and know what that word means. But as far as I understand it, it's pretty straightforward what happens. But again, I think the heart of this book is in the romance, and I rated this 4.5 stars. The next book that I read is an urban fantasy, and that is The Middling Affliction by Alex Schwartzman. This is the first book in the Conrad-verse Chronicles, where we follow our main character who is a magical being who works for this organization that's kind of like a neighborhood watch for magical beings, making sure that everyone in this urban setting, I think it's in Brooklyn, is like following the rules, like not overstepping their bounds as magic users, and at the same time making sure that non-magic users do not pose as magic users in order to deceive other people. So basically, yeah, that's just the neighborhood watch for magical beings. And secretly, this main character is a middling, or someone who can perceive magic but doesn't actually possess magic. So he makes use of magical items to, pretend to wield magic. I thought that this book had a really interesting premise. It's sort of like Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson, where there's superheroes in the world, there's different magical beings with like different hidden agendas for, using their power. But over the course of reading this just slowly at first and then quickly towards the end just kind of lost me. It lost my interest because the characters were not well developed. They felt very one-dimensional and emotionless. There were parts that I thought I should have cared more about the certain character death or a certain character going through a traumatic experience, but I just did not feel that because I don't know, this book was kind of poorly written. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. So I rated this 2.5 stars. The next book that I read is actually a reread, and actually reread this with the purpose of annotating it for a friend. And that is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. This is chronologically the second book in the Narnia series, but by publishing order, it's the first one. Again, it is a popular book. I don't need to delve into it. Surprisingly, even now being like an agnostic adult, I still love this book and I love the themes it discusses and the symbols. And I also really love the world of Narnia, and I actually, reading this as an adult, really admired C.S. Lewis's writing. He really does his world building well. He describes settings so beautifully that makes even the most simple things like snow or spring so magical. But I definitely enjoyed it less than I did, as a younger kid. Those are all the books that I've read. Well, 7 of the 8 books. The other one I'm not going to talk about because it's not really relevant to the viewers. But those are the books I read. It was a good reading month, honestly, in terms of like my enjoyment. And I'm honestly just satisfied now having read 8 books. I think that's not a bad number at all. But yeah, definitely let me know in the comments what your favorite book of the month was. And don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. Make sure to be subscribed. This month we are celebrating Weekathon, so expect some Weekathon content coming your way in the future. That is it, everyone. I hope you have a good day. Bye!